Welcome to today's virtual career exploration video. I'm Danielle Britton, Talent and Education Director at the Greater Binghamton Chamber of Commerce and the Greater Binghamton Education Outreach Program. Today, I'm joined by Kristin Saunders, who is System Director for Procurement Services at UHS. Thanks for joining us today, Kristin.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm just going to jump right in and have you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and your career path.
Sure. So I'm born and raised in the Triple Cities. I graduated from Union Endicott High School. I then went on to SUNY Broome for my 2-year degree, and then got my 4-year degree in business administration from Mansfield University in Pennsylvania. So I've been drawn to the business world basically my whole life. I did some internships in a business office, so I knew I wanted to do something within business. So I took a couple different paths before I ended up here at UHS. But basically, I've been involved in my previous jobs in distribution, contract negotiations, sourcing of some degree. Obviously working with vendors, being the vendor, and also working with outside vendors. An opportunity came along back in 2008 to join United Health Services Hospitals, where I started here as a contract specialist. It was a newly designed position. So basically what that means is I worked with our main medical distributor and other vendors that we get supplies from. So anything from our snow plowing and landscaping to stents for the cath lab, to knee implants, to Band-Aids and everyday items. From there, I was then promoted up to what's called a sourcing specialist. So more heavy sourcing, more contract negotiations, more relationships with vendors. And then in 2015, I became the System Director of Procurement.
Awesome. How did you get interested in kind of the procurement side of things within business?
So at my previous job before UHS, I was doing a lot of, again, the contract negotiations, the logistics of how, you get product from the factory to the end user. So I did things from shipping to sourcing raw materials, to negotiating what we're going to pay for those materials, and then working on the other side, quoting and distribution for the people actually buying the product. So when I kind of moved into UHS, it was just different stuff, if you will. So it was just kind of different products. Mm-hmm. But then, a whole new world awakened me within the medical field. It is so interesting and so complex that I never have the same day twice. So I really started, it was really a great first start here, and realized I wanted, to kind of keep moving within procurement supply chain here at the hospital, just to keep expanding my role and learning why we do what we do, learning why you can't just buy whatever you want to buy. You can't just go to the grocery store like you are now, I want this, this, and this. Well, it doesn't work that way in a hospital, right? So I really had to learn why we use the products we use, the reasons behind it. You can't just, like I said, go and buy something. Is it FDA cleared? Is it allowed, is it to be put into a patient? So I have, been just as passionate on day one as I am now, 11 and a half years later. I really enjoy having a different day every day. And learning about what we do and why we do it, and obviously, for our patients.
So I know you said like your days aren't typical, but if you had to kind of describe what would happen on any given day, obviously before the coronavirus, because we'll talk about that, how I'm sure it's changed your life a lot right now, because you kind of go through kind of even maybe a process of looking at a new item to use.
So what we do here is, obviously, we have daily orders that come in. So you have to work with your medical distributor to make sure that things aren't, back ordered, or if they are back ordered, you have to get, clinical approval. Is this a clinical equivalent? So, we're not talking just about, Band-Aid to Band-Aid, but if you're talking about someone's knee implant, if a knee is back ordered, can you use a different vendor or a different type of knee to be placed into that patient? So daily things are making sure we don't have back orders. If we do, finding the sub, making sure our inventory levels are correct. If we had a really busy weekend, maybe we blew through our supplies, so we need to order heavy the next day. Working with our vendors, we have big vendor relationships. We want to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. So if I commit that I'm going to use your product for so many, patients, or so many so many months or the spend, we're doing that. We're looking at our contracts. Are we getting the best price? When we negotiated a contract a year ago, the pricing was great. Is that pricing still great now? So we have all kinds of tools to kind of let us know, like you guys as a consumer would shop around and say, hey, this TV is $100 at Walmart. It's $125 at Best Buy. It's $99 at Amazon. Where do you buy it from? Do you pay shipping? Those are the analytics that go into everyday purchases and huge contracts to make sure that we're getting the best deal. Medicare, Medicaid is a big topic, but basically if we're not putting money out, obviously take care of our patients. If we're not getting that money back in, or we're not getting in as cost effective as we can, we're going to lose money. So my job is to make sure we stay within budget, that we order everything we need for the patient at the best price. So someone would say, how would you do that? So what we do is most, if not all, hospital systems have what's called a value analysis process. So what that means is you come to our meeting and you say, hey, I want to use this new knee implant. I think it has clinical advantages versus what we're using now, all types of reasons. So then what happens is the committee, which is made up of all types of different people throughout the organization. So you have procurement people. You have, nurses, doctors, you have financial people that are running the numbers to make sure it's something that we're not going to lose money on. And then we all sit together and kind of go over the pros and cons. Are we going to stop using our current knee because we want to bring in this new high-tech knee? Is it for every patient, or is it just for specific patients? So everything that we do when we bring in, so it could be medical, it could be non-medical. We're trying to figure out, are we going to have one landscaper that does all of the UHS campuses, or do we need to break it up and use multiple vendors? So really, it's a group of people in the organization coming together and discussing all the different aspects of what we're trying to bring in. And, does it make sense, for our hospital system? Does it make sense for the patient?
What's your favorite part of your day?
Oh my goodness.
Your job.
I think what I really love is learning about all of the products and why we use it. It is so fascinating to listen to our clinicians. So it could be a nurse, it could be a physician. I meet with them on a regular basis, and for them to tell me, and they're very passionate, like, this is why I want to use this product, because it's going to make this patient's outcome so much better. Or if we don't do this and we buy something else instead, this is what could happen. So it's really learning. I love the medical part of it. And everyone is great about teaching the non-clinical folks clinical things. So that's probably my favorite part. And then obviously the analytics, I love to negotiate. I love, some negotiations are better than others. Some take a long time, but I love the art of working with different people and the vendors to come up with, the best solution. They need to make money. So do we. So it's the game of back and forth of how can we both get what we want. And, again, we always have to focus back on what's best for the patient.
So obviously your workday has changed a lot over the past couple of weeks with the coronavirus. So can you tell us a little bit about how it's changed? And I know you've been working nonstop, so.
So my days were filled with, obviously, meeting with physicians, clinicians, I have a team of 15 people, making sure that the department is running, that we're getting product in, that we're paying our bills, all of that stuff. So now it's amazing what a pandemic can do for your calendar. My calendar is now completely open. So there are no more meetings, which is a good thing and a bad thing. But now what I'm really focusing on is every morning, as soon as I come in 8:15, I have a special team within my department that's just working on COVID-19. So all of their other job responsibilities has ceased, and all we do is sourcing for COVID. So we meet every morning and say, okay, what happened the night before? What happened over the weekend? What supplies are we low on? We're basically, kind of low on most things. We have obviously supplies, but as COVID ramps up and we have more patients, we're going to blow through a lot of those a lot quicker. So what is today's focus on? And when I say today's focus, I mean just the first half of the day. That's the busiest time for any organization, regardless of COVID or not. Every company has order cutoffs so that you can obviously, you have to place your orders and then you have to ship back. So that's what I do the first half. Then the last half of the day is, okay, what couldn't we get? What issues are going on? What has changed? So from our command center, from our senior leaders, okay, now this is something we have to buy, or now we need to look at this. So then we have a plan for the last half of the day. And it kind of, unfortunately, it's like Groundhog's Day every day of what we're looking at. So like over the weekend, unfortunately, I had to look at, I needed to source body bags. So now every deceased patient, regardless if they're COVID positive or not, we have to make sure we have enough of those. So there's, downsides of the job, things that you don't want to think about. But then we've been sourcing over the weekend baby monitors. Why would you need a baby monitor? Well, so for patients, for staff, for visitors, so they can safely see and communicate with their loved one without exposing them to, obviously, the nasty germs and things like that. So, there's days where you're on an upswing because you're like, wow, I just landed a bunch of supplies, they're shipping in. And then the next day you come in and, we blew through a lot of them, or we have to look at this. So it's been an emotional roller coaster because we know at the end of the day, you guys have seen the news, downstate hospitals have not had any what we call PPE, which is personal protective equipment, which would include goggles, masks, gowns, gloves. So when we stop to think about that, it's a lot on our shoulders. We obviously want to make sure our staff and our patients are safe.
Yeah.
So it's a little crazy.
Yeah. It is changing so fast.
Yes.
So if there's, let's say, a high school student that might be interested in thinking about something in kind of procurement, or it's kind of similar to like supply chain.
Yep.
What sort of courses would you suggest them take either in high school or in college?
Sure. I think any business class, no matter what you end up going into, like I didn't know I was going to go into supply chain when I was, in high school or even in college. I knew business, but what does business mean? It's a broad topic. So I definitely think any business course, what I need to know my day-to-day role, regardless if I was just still a purchasing agent versus my role now. You need to have accounting skills. You need to understand what just simple accounting terms are, like balance sheet, income statement, that type of thing. You don't have to be an accountant, but you need to have some basic level of what that means. What the difference is between an accounts payable and accounts receivable department. One pays the bills, one collects the money, right? You need to have some inventory knowledge. So supply chain is really logistics and distribution, meaning how do you get the products to the end user? And then the procurement side, the purchasing of the equipment, whatever it is that you're buying, right? So you need to have some sort of understanding of what inventory is. You need to have some sort of understanding of contract management. So if they offer contract, negotiations, that's something that every procurement expert needs to know how to negotiate with people. Those are some important, I would say, between inventory negotiations and just general business terms. That's what I would definitely concentrate in.
Great. And you mentioned like accounting skills and some of that stuff. Are there any other skills that you think are important? Negotiation.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So I think you have to be someone that, I'm not saying you have to be like the most outgoing person in the world, but you have to be able to build relationships. Supply chain, no matter what side of the tracks you're on, if you will, if the logistics and distribution or the purchasing or procurement side, you're going to work with all types of people within your own office, and then obviously vendors, suppliers, etc. So you need to be able to have and be able to cultivate business relationships, be able to read people. I think back to your previous question, some psychology, some of those types of courses so that you learn about people, why people act the way they are, and how to work with different types of personalities, no matter what kind of job you're in. I think that's key because, obviously going through BLI, we have all different types of personalities, all different roles and functions. You need to be able to work with multiple types of people. So I think the people part, along with the business classes, are equally as important. I think you need to be able to be flexible. My day, I like it because it's different, but some people that they might be too rigid or too black and white. You have to be flexible in this type of job. You have to be a critical thinker, a global thinker. You have to be not just thinking about, well, what's in front of me for this hour. I have to think about what's in front of me for the hour, for the day, for the week, for the month, and how my actions are going to impact all of those different timelines.
Great. Any last minute advice you have for anybody thinking about getting into this type of field?
I think if you have the passion, no matter what you do, I would say, I'm so fortunate I get to come to work every day and get paid to do something that I love. So find your passion. I love supply chain, obviously, that's why I'm here. I think supply chain, no matter if it's in the hospital or if it's in, a medical field, if it's in food service, no matter what supply chain you're looking at, you're always going to have a job, as everyone you can see on the news right now, because we're all essential workers. That's why we're all still at our offices or wherever we happen to be. So I think for people that want job security, I think that's a great way to go into it. Someone that wants variety and not just the same stuff every day, I think it's a great role for you. Like I said, you go back and forth between inventory or logistics or purchasing, you always have something, to keep you busy and interested.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. As we share these videos out, if anybody has further questions, you can send me an email at dbritton@greaterbinghamtonchamber.com, and we'll share that on the links when we share out the videos as well. Thank you for joining us, Kristin.
Great. Thank you.